Well, here we are, I guess. Good morning, everybody. The crypto market's not looking too hot today. We have the altcoin market getting absolutely smashed as Bitcoin's price is now down over 8% just within the last 24 hours. Now currently back under $95,000. A crazy pullback here in the crypto market. And again, the altcoin market is not responding super great to it. And so people are freaking out. People are scared and worried. And I was like, you know what? I want to make a quick video for you all just talking about exactly what is going on and exactly what I'm doing right now as a result of this big old crash that we're seeing, okay? And so without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get into it. So the very first question that a lot of people are going to have is, Tyler, what's going on? Okay, that is the big question that a lot of people have, and you can really break this down into three different categories, okay? First, fundamentally, we are starting to see there's OG whales, and you are seeing some more big players, right? Not institutions, but OG whales, they're selling, okay? So whenever you start to see some of those OG whales taking profits, boom, that's going to put a lot of spot sell pressure here on the market. Now, is this a scary thing? No, it's not a scary thing. Some of these people have been in Bitcoin since $10,000, $5,000, $6,000, and they're concerned that Bitcoin might be dropping 100K now for what could be multiple months, if not over a year. And so naturally, when they get concerned, what are they going to do? They're going to reward themselves. Just like me and you have been taking profit off the table this whole time, that's all they're doing as well. It's just profit taking, rewarding themselves for what they've been able to accomplish. And so naturally, that is going to put a little bit of sell pressure here on the market. Now, from a technical perspective, when you put in your TA, this pullback is happening because we ran into three major zones of resistance. There were three key zones of resistance that Bitcoin's price just ran into, and I can quickly lay them out for you if you guys would like. Now, the very first zone of resistance that Bitcoin's price ran into was this right here. Boom. We had this previous point of support that we were running into right there, and then we had that support that we were running into right there. We had a little bit of this resistance back here. Bitcoin's price broke below the support, came back up to it, and then ran into resistance, naturally going to, of course, try to force its price to the downside. Now, in addition to that key zone of resistance, we also had another level of resistance, which was created by this. If we go out to the dailies, boom, 1 second. Here we go. You can see how this played out. So let me go in and draw our support from that low to that low and drag it all the way up. And you can quite clearly see what's going on here. Boom. Bitcoin's price broke below that ascending level of blue support, and it worked itself all the way back up to it before running into it as resistance and getting rejected back towards the downside. And then the third level of resistance that Bitcoin is currently running into is, of course, your Fibonacci resistance. As we can see here, Bitcoin's price had this high, then it had the low. Bitcoin's price came all the way back up, started to retrace and recover, ran into that golden zone resistance, got rejected back down. So it ran into three major zones of resistance all on a technical perspective as a back test. And naturally, I told you very, very clearly in the last video, listen, Bitcoin's price is now retracing after getting rejected right here. This is normal because this is a very strong zone of resistance. What you need to be on the lookout for is whether or not Bitcoin can try to build up some support around $101,000 or $102,000. If it can, I think Bitcoin's going to try to make some sort of recovery, maybe cup and handle this bad boy and try to make a break back up towards 115. If it fails, though, don't be surprised at all to see Bitcoin's price start coming back down to the lower 90,000s. And that's where we are right now. Bitcoin's just coming back down to the lower 90,000s after seeing a perfectly technical breakout in a back test. Our good old friend, Bob T. Breakout, back test. Okay. So from a technical perspective, is this scary? No, it's just what Bitcoin does when it runs into major resistance. And then from a manipulation perspective, okay, let's get some of that manipulation up in there. Well, we know what's going on right now. This is a liquidation event, and this is a very, very big liquidation event. If we actually head over to the crypto liquidation charts, you can see that the entire market, and Bitcoin's price specifically, has now rinsed the downside. If you look at the 30-day, rinsed. If you look at the 7-day, rinsed. If you look at the 1-day, mostly rinsed. They have a couple new ones that have just recently stacked up, but this isn't even $1 billion left. And we are seeing that basically all downside liquidations with the short term here on the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map specifically has now been rinsed. And you remember, whenever price was starting to recover right here, boom, I told you all, be concerned. Right? Whenever we saw $106,000, I said, be concerned, because if I was a market manipulator, if I was a lizard person, what I would do is I would go in and I would probably pull this market back down one more time as well. I would probably bring it back down to try to get one more batch of liquidations. Matter of fact, if you actually go look at the Discord server, on the 10th, which was, yeah, right here, I said, boom, heavily considering doing another take profit right now on these purchases that we did when Bitcoin's at 99K. I just don't like the way these liquidations blow a smell right now. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. I don't know. Then I was like, yep, doing it. So I then put take profit done, small one on Bitcoin and ETH at 106 and 3,500. So we took profits off the table because we were aware that some sort of liquidation event could easily happen, especially if we get a buy the rumor, sell the news-esque event, which is what we, of course, have gotten. And so naturally, the market is pulling back, and it had the perfect trifecta for some sort of crash like this. Now, again, I didn't actually think this crash was going to happen, and I'm not going to pretend like I did. I thought there was a 45% chance that it could happen. So I thought there was a 45% chance that Bitcoin's price was going to break down to the 90s. I thought there was a 55% chance that it was going to break back up. So naturally, my bias thought that the market was going to move back upwards, but I was vastly aware that some sort of pullback could possibly be on the way. And so, of course, that's why we were taking some profits off the table and stacking some cash to the side just in case it happens, so we can take advantage of it. And so all in all, why are we seeing this pullback happen? Well, it's all of this. We have OG Wells selling mixed in with the price running into 3 key zones of resistance at the same time that the market makers are liquidating long traders. Boom. You're gonna get a pullback like this. Now, the next question that some of you are going to have is, Tyler, does this mean that the bear market is here? No, not yet. It doesn't confirm it yet. And that is something that people truly need to understand, is that no, it does not mean it confirms it yet. Okay. Is it becoming more possible? Absolutely. Is it becoming more likely? Absolutely. Is there a higher percent chance that we're entering into a multi-month or multi-year bear market? Absolutely. For sure. And you may say, well, Tyler, why does it mean it's more likely? Well, because we're losing macro levels of support, guys. You just got to understand how this works. We're below the 50-week moving average. We just lost daily structure. We just lost some key levels of support. So naturally, if you are going to start breaking through micro and midterm structure, you're going to naturally start to put yourself at a higher risk of not being able to recover back to some of those higher levels. Now, you may wonder, Tyler, what's your confirmation? Where do you say it? Where do you draw the line at? Well, the first time that I would really start to draw the line, and I know this would be a little bit late to the party, but truth be told, I don't care about bull markets and bear markets. I care about taking profits and buying. But the first big warning shot to me would be if we lose a macro golden zone. That would be like, okay, yep, that is probably likely. And the first one goes between 91 and 83. So to me, while we're above 91 and 83, at any given point, based on historical performative data, Bitcoin's price can literally send. It has happened so many times through history that Bitcoin has lost short-term structure, came back down to a golden Fibonacci zone, used that golden Fibonacci zone to send to the upside. But it is incredibly likely that when you start losing golden Fibonacci zones, your likelihood of starting, if you do this, your likelihood of being under there for months and months, if not years, is very possible. I'm not going to say 100% likely and probable, but very, very possible, okay? And so the way that I look at it is like, yeah, us losing this golden zone of support definitely means that some sort of bear market could be getting closer. Us breaking below the 50-week moving average, breaking below macro structures, yeah, absolutely could make it more likely, but it's not fully confirmed to me yet. I think the percentage chances are going up, that is for sure, but it's not fully confirmed to me yet. If you just zoom out and stop thinking too hard, you can clearly see that Bitcoin's price has still quite obviously been putting in higher highs and higher lows, higher highs and higher lows, higher highs and higher lows. We've still put in higher highs, and we easily could put in higher lows. And the concept or the theory that, well, Tyler, we've been holding this line of support the whole bull market, and we're breaking below it now, so that means that the bear market has to be here, is nonsense. You have to understand that that's not how support works. Support levels are not the guarantors. Support levels are liquidity zones, but liquidity zones exist on a spectrum. It's not a binary thing. So the idea that we couldn't break below something and then just go back above it is ridiculous, especially in a market that's heavily manipulated, knowing that people will close out their trades if we break below these specific levels. So I don't attest and subscribe to the idea that because we break through certain things, it means that the bull market for sure is over. It just becomes more and more likely as that happens. And that's the approach that I almost always take. So knowing that the bull market ending and the bear market being here is becoming more of a possibility, and it is something that I am becoming more prepared for, you guys may be wondering the next question, well, Tyler, what do we do right now? Well, I've already told you exactly what my game plan is in a moment like this. If we are entering into a bear market, let's just say the worst case scenario is here. If we are entering into a bear market, which looks like multiple months of us pulling back and dropping, maybe even back to where $40,000, $50,000, somewhere down here, right? My game plan, the best thing to do, the absolute best thing to do, realistically and practically, knowing that I can't time the bottom and there's no way that I'm going to be able to time the bottom, the best thing to do is to try to buy Bitcoin and altcoins at the levels in which they are the most likely to bounce back to the upside and end that bear market. That is the best thing to do. The only thing you can do in a bear market practically is just try to buy bottoms. That's it. There's nothing better you can do. What else are you going to do? You're not going to want to buy tops. You're not going to want to buy in the mid ranges. You're going to want to try to buy the bottoms. And so my game plan is to identify levels in which I believe the bottoms are the most likely and accumulate at those bottoms. So how am I going to go about approaching that? Well, very, very simply, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out key zones of support. Now, the closest zone of support, now that we've lost this one, because I was doing some accumulating here at $98,000, we did lose it, as you can see. As we can see here, I scooped a small bag of Bitcoin at 98.6K. I told you guys I wouldn't do a big purchase because the risk of a pullback was too high, but I did do a little small purchase at 98K. Don't regret it. Very happy about it still. It was a great purchase. And now what I'm going to do, now that we've dropped 98K, is I'm going to look to see if there's any other key levels of support that I can accumulate at right now. And there are two that I'm paying attention to. Now, the first one that I'm paying attention to is that golden Fibonacci zone I told you about last time. If we go back out here, I can draw my support from that low at $75,000 all the way up to that high that gives me this golden Fibonacci zone, and it sits roughly between $91,000 and $83,000. This is the biggest zone of support that Bitcoin's price has now below it, okay? Very, very, very big, important zone of support. Holds this zone of support, very good spot. Loses this zone of support, very bad spot. One of those support levels, right? And so that is a zone that I'm willing to accumulate at. Why? Because it has the highest chance of giving us a bounce back upwards. Now, in addition to that zone of support, I actually am noticing that we are at a zone of support right now. And the only way to recognize that zone of support is if you zoom all the way back out. And what I'm paying attention to is this low, the bear market low, and the next low that it put after it, which established the bull market. This is the bull market establishing trend right here, okay? And let's go in and zoom in just to make sure that this is really good. Okay, boom, boom, boom. All right, we're good. And so what you can see is that Bitcoin's price is now currently approaching that support level right now. It's approaching that ascending level of support as we speak. And so knowing that we have the trend that established this bull market and we have the golden Fibonacci zone approaching, of course, I'm willing to do some purchasing right now. And that's exactly why I did some purchasing just 6:30 this morning. I said I'm going to be doing a medium-sized dollar cost average at 95,600. So I actually did a bit of a bigger purchase today than I did at 98K. Why? Because this level is more likely to hold than this one. And guess what? This level is more likely to hold than this one. My strategy is always the same. The lower we go into these pullbacks, the bigger the purchase sizes that I do, because you are more likely the lower you go to reverse. Look at the RSI, for example. As Bitcoin's price has been pulling back, the RSI here on the daily chart is now at the lowest level that it's been since March. If you head over to the 4-hour RSI, we're starting to see bullish divergence form, in which we are still setting the higher low while the price is setting a lower low, meaning that this pullback is losing strength as we're approaching these zones of support. So that means that the lower we're going, the more likely it's becoming that Bitcoin's going to try to rally and reverse back to the upside. And how do we spot that reversal is happening? You look for the break of the trend. You establish your trend right here and you say, okay, we're looking for support to be held and we got to break above that resistance. Once we do that, now we're in reversal territory and we start to pivot back into a bit of a different composition here, okay? And so that's all I'm looking for right now. I'm going to accumulate at these key levels of support until we eventually break back above one of the trends and start to reverse to the upside, giving us some higher lows and see where we go from there. The question that all of us is going to have, or all of us will have, is when the price does reverse, when the price does find recovery, do we use that recovery to go full-blown bull again, or is it just going to be some sort of recovery bounce that leads us back down towards the downside? Both of those are very real possibilities, and that's what time will tell. That's what I don't know, okay? And so that's where we are right now, okay? And I hope this gives you a good general market overview of what all I'm doing right now with Bitcoin specifically. Bitcoin's price is breaking down for 3 core reasons, technically, fundamentally, and market manipulation based, all of which make a lot of sense, and they are pushing Bitcoin's price downwards. Now, in response to that, I'm not going to freak out. I'm not going to stress. The only thing that I can do is acknowledge, okay, yes, the odds of a bear market are becoming much more possible. And so what I need to do now is I need to locate the best times to buy and set my buy orders in and get my buys going so that if the market does enter into a bear market, I can buy at the best times possible, right, as we go to these key support levels. And if the bear market's not here and we're about to recover, I still got to buy at the best times possible. It's my way to play, okay? And so that's what I'm going to be doing with that. Altcoins, I'm not super worried about right now. I'm just going to kind of ignore them for a little bit. I'm focused on Bitcoin because Bitcoin's making the decision for us here. Bitcoin drops the support, we're heading back down here, okay? That's just the way that this is going to go. So I'm going to base my moves on altcoins off of this when Bitcoin starts to decide here, okay? So I'll keep you updated as it all does play out. But guys, listen, listen, there's no need to really stress about this too much because at the end of the day, remember, we can't control it. We can't control if Bitcoin recovers. We can't control if a bull market's here, if a bear market here. We can't control what Trump does. We can't control anything. I would rather you spend less time complaining and less time crying about what's happening and spend more time figuring out ways that you can benefit from the market we're in. If that's learning how to short, learn how to short. If that's dollar cost averaging at key levels of support, then do that. But allocate your time properly and wisely in a market like this because when the market does eventually return, and when we do have a great day, when Bitcoin's up 10% one day, when Bitcoin's at $150,000 one day, you'll be proud of yourself that you're able to stick out a moment like this, okay? So I'll keep you updated as it plays out, and I'll keep you updated of how my opinion of the market plays out as well. But in general, I am still in a very similar spot as to where I have been, just becoming much more realistic that, yeah, bear market could definitely be on the way, and now we need to plan out the levels that we're going to take advantage of that bear market in order to make a lot of money over the next coming years, okay? And so I'll keep you guys updated. I hope you guys are faring well. I hope you guys have a good Friday. I'll see you all on the next one.